And now we got to talk about a really disturbing news story because blue states, at least some of them, just got exposed for having an honestly kind of dystopian system in place of snitch lines where people can report their problematic neighbors to the government. No, I am not making this up. New reporting from the Washington Free Beacon takes us inside state-run bias response hotlines where fellow citizens can now report your offensive jokes. The Free Beacon's Aaron Sibarium reports that in January of 2020, the top law enforcement agency in the state of Oregon launched a bias response hotline for residents to report offensive jokes. Yeah, because that's totally sane and not at all Orwellian or creepy. Staffed by trauma-informed operators and overseen by the Oregon Department of Justice, the hotline, which receives thousands of calls a year, doesn't just solicit reports of hate crimes and hiring discrimination. It also asks reports for bias incidents, cases of non-criminal expression that are motivated in part by prejudice or hate. So this is not just a hotline to report crimes, like a hate crime, like vandalism, or even discrimination in the workplace. No, they're actually asking you to snitch on your neighbors if they say something that hurts your fifis. Give me a break. Oregonians are encouraged to report their fellow citizens for things like creating racist images, mocking someone with a disability, and sharing offensive jokes about someone's identity. The horror. God forbid you joke about shit. It is not entirely clear what the state does with these reports, Sibarium reports. While the hotline cannot sanction a bias perpetrator, according to its website, it does share de-identified data with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission, a body that develops public safety plans for the state and connects, quote, survivors with resources like counseling and rent relief. Oh, so as you can see from this reporting, if you survive a bias incident, you can now get taxpayer-funded rent relief. Bruh, our society is so cooked. To find out more about this, the Washington Free Beacon actually called the hotline in Oregon and filed a report suggesting a bias incident had occurred because their neighbor had put up an Israeli flag. Set aside your views about Israel-Palestine. That's not what this is about. And just listen to this clip.
I was talking to my neighbor. And I said I was Muslim. I said I thought that what was going on in Gaza was a genocide. And then the next day, my neighbor puts up a huge Israeli flag, on his front door. And it felt very targeted.
If you feel like there is an expression of animus against your religious beliefs, then that's a bias incident. And I want to center your perspective. And if you feel like this was a bias incident, that the flag is an expression of animosity against your faith or your country of origin, then we honor that, and I want to acknowledge that. So that would be a bias incident. Even if it is not very explicit, we go with whatever the victim is experiencing.
So this right here was enough for me to already see what a joke this system is. They're basically like, well, whatever you say is offensive, we'll record as a bias incident. It's your truth. It's your fifis. So somebody doing something completely legal, putting up a flag of a country on their own property, yeah, we'll record that and we'll connect you with resources. What? And it's your truth. Anything you say is offensive. We'll just take your word for it. So it's a joke. So I could call and report that my neighbor looked at me funny and he'll be added to a government database and I'll get free shit from the government. This is fine. This is normal. And there's like finances involved here, guys. You get free stuff if you make these reports in some of these places. Take a listen to more of the call with the Free Beacon, undercover, obviously kind of trolling the hotline operator.
As a victim of a bias incident, you qualify for mental health support. So if your insurance does not cover the mental health support, you'd be able to get coverage and funding through the Department of Justice.
How would I go about that?
You just got to click on applying for victims compensation, CVC. It'll ask you what crime were you the victim of, and what you have to select is hate/bias incident. It's a drop-down menu under type of crime.
Okay.
And you just go like hate bias incident.
And so even though it's not technically a crime, that's okay?
That's one of the laws that changed recently. If you are the victim of a bias incident, even if it's not a crime, you qualify for mental health services.
Bro, they literally make taxpayers pay for you to get free therapy if you report a non-crime, just something that happened that hurt your fifis. You can't make this shit up. If you told me this is like the right-wing parody people, like Babylon Bee making fun of what blue states are like, I'd be like, come on, that's a little on the nose. Don't you think? They're not that bad. Yes, they're literally that bad. Welcome to 2025, I guess. And the therapy is bad enough, but I'm still not over the rent relief part of this reporting. Some of these places give you rent relief if you report this. And they're doing this all through the Crime Victims Compensation Fund in Oregon. That's such a slap in the face to actual crime victims who that money is supposed to help. And that's such a perversion of what that program was presumably created to do. Like, this is insane. Am I the crazy one for like thinking this is wild? Or are they what? But at least it's just one blue state doing this, right? Just like one place. No. As the Free Beacon reports, Oregon isn't an outlier. It is one of a dozen Democratic jurisdictions, including 8 states, that have created bias reporting systems for residents to report protected speech. By the end of 2025, nearly 100 million Americans will live in a state where they can be reported for protected speech. Bruh. That's dystopian. This isn't just one crazy place. This is 8 blue states and other jurisdictions with more than 100 million residents that are going to have snitch lines to report your neighbors to the speech police. Now, beyond the shock value here, why does this matter exactly? FIRE, which, disclaimer, I do some consulting work for, the Nonpartisan Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, they have commented on this story and explained why it's such a problem. The biggest reason is that it creates a chilling effect on people's ability to express themselves and exercise their constitutional rights if they know their neighbors can literally report them to the government, potentially, if they say something offensive. FIRE's Aaron Turr, the director of public advocacy, said that the involvement of law enforcement in some of these systems raises serious questions about their constitutionality and their potential chilling effects. Some courts have ruled that campus bias response teams chill protected speech through implicit threats of investigation and punishment, Turr told the Free Beacon. The state-level reporting systems raise similar First Amendment issues, especially when law enforcement is involved. Yeah, I do think this would have a chilling effect. Some of these places even contact you if you've been reported. Imagine that. You put a flag outside your door and somebody reports you to the frickin' government and you get a call from the Department of whatever saying that you've been reported to the bias hate speech response line for your blue state. In the age of cancel culture, where people are canceled for far less than a report of a bias incident, is that not going to chill people's speech? Is that not going to make people afraid to speak their minds, scared to say their true opinions? I certainly think it would. So look, I think this kind of thing should be challenged in court and potentially struck down and prohibited as a violation of the Constitution. And even if the legal remedies maybe aren't there, maybe courts for some reason uphold this, states got to scrap this. It is so chilling and so creepy and also so condescending. There are not, in fact, huge swaths of the public that need to be coddled from everything that might hurt their feelings, even if it's not remotely close to a criminal act. And setting up government systems like this is so ripe for abuse and reinforces everything that's wrong with our culture and our society today. But that's just my take. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments below. And make sure you hit that like button while you're at it.